Greetings, everybody. This is Winnie Wriggle, and welcome back to Valhelsia2. We're in episode 9, and I'm standing in the storage room again. That's right, because last episode I said we need to upgrade our storage. We need to go to refined storage. That sounds like a great plan, right? Yeah, 2 problems. They're both resource related. First up, nether quartz. Everything in refined storage requires nether quartz, including quartz enriched iron and silicon, because you need quartz to make silicon in this pack. No problem. I went to the nether, battled some blazes, battled some gas, mined all the nether quartz, got everything that we needed from the nether for refined storage. Finished with the nether, came back to the base, took a little break thinking, oh, we're set. I got everything I need. Yeah, then I started looking at recipes. To make a basic processor, we need something called processor binding. The primary ingredient in processor binding? Slime. How do you make slime? I haven't seen any slimes in game. What are we gonna do? I mean, I bought like 6 slime balls off the Wandering Trader, but I can't afford that. That's too expensive. We have to figure out how to make slime. Turns out you can make it if you use lime, dye, and dough from Create. That's great. Another reason to use Create. How do you make dough? Turns out you make wheat flour using a millstone. Easy. Millstone recipe? No problem. We have everything we need for that. But it would be great if we could automate it, because we're going to need a lot of slime to make a lot of things for refined storage. How do you automate things in Create? Well, it turns out you need a belt, a mechanical belt to be precise. How do you make a mechanical belt? You make it out of kelp. Kelp. In a world where I haven't found an ocean yet. Are you kidding me, game? So we went on a little adventure, hopped on our horse, went a long way due west. All the way out here to this glowing mushroom forest, which happens to be next to the ocean. Amazing. So we could get kelp. I didn't actually bring the horse on this trip because we have a waystone, which means I couldn't bring the horse. So now we have a waystone to get to the beach. So I harvested a bunch of kelp because today we're going to make a kelp farm. Yep. Storage starts with a kelp farm. Here's where we are on the map, by the way. All the way over here on the left. Our base is way over here on the right. It's not that far, but I did follow the shoreline for just a while so I could check out all the biomes that are between here and our base. Another thing, all this talk of food has actually made me quite hungry. So the first thing we're going to do today, before we do anything else, we're going to make a kitchen. Here's everything we need for our projects today. First up, a custom kitchen using the Cooking for Blockheads mod. Key ingredients for this that we had to go hunt. You need to put a book in a furnace to get the Cooking for Blockheads 1 book. The Cooking for Blockheads 2 just requires diamonds and a crafting table, and you use that book along with any stone and terracotta to make a cooking table. The other tricky thing we had to make was the oven, and that was the black stained glass. I ended up using the black dye from Brittania in order to make black stained glass. Sink's pretty straightforward. All the cabinets, etc., are just chests combined with terracotta and some version of stone. The space I've picked for our kitchen is right underneath our storage area, since we're going to be moving to a less complicated storage system here. I'm going to start by making a bar countertop and using our countertops to make us a little kitchen area. We'll add our fridge, our oven, our cooking table, a sink, and a couple more kitchen counters, so we have a lovely place to sit while we're admiring our kitchen. Cooking for Blockheads is one of the most amazing mods. If you put food items in any of the cabinets, you can access those food items using the cooking table as a crafting table. It puts any recipe that you can make with the food that you have available into the crafting table, including anything that requires water or cooking if you put fuel in your oven. So the Cooking for Blockheads kitchen is a multi-block kitchen. You can also add different kinds of storage to it. For example, we can put this little fruit basket down here and it will also store fruit. If you have any cooking mods like Simple Farming that have tools that go with them, you can put tool racks adjacent to your Cooking for Blockheads countertops and other blocks, and they also become part of the multi-block. We'll also add a spice rack above our sink, a toaster, onto the countertop itself for cooking things like bread into toast and baguettes. And then new in this version are the addition of corner hanging cabinets. And so we'll put regular hanging cabinets all the way across the top of the kitchen. My other favorite part about this mod is the ability to dye the cabinets. You can take any color dye. In this case, we're gonna do, let's do a red top part of the kitchen and a yellow under cabinet. You can also dye the refrigerator components. So now we have a beautiful color coordinated cooking for Blockhead's kitchen. Let me throw some of our food items into the storage and I'll show you how the recipes work. Okay, I have added food to the fridge, fruit to the fruit basket, and peppers to the spice rack. If we take a look at our cooking table, you can see now that there's a whole lot of recipes available to us. Roasted mushrooms, spinach quinoa quiche. Let's make one of those. Delicious. Now that we have a full belly, we can move on to the next part of our project, which is to make a kelp farm. I have everything that we're going to need. It's very simple. It's actually mostly vanilla components, including pistons, observers, some redstone dust, hoppers, and a chest. And of course, the kelp. We're going to head out here to the area just outside of our horse barn because we already have the water area sticking out here with our water wheels for our create contraptions. I thought we could just put our kelp farm in kind of a similar shape out the side of this building. The design for this kelp farm is an adaptation of a couple of different farms. We're going to start with the collection system, which is just a double chest with 3 hoppers pointed into it. And then we're going to run a line around the bottom. This is 8 blocks long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then cap the end. And then I think we want to make the floor of our farm look like it's been underwater for a while, which it has. So our kelp will be planted on this back row here. So now we want to go up by 2 blocks with a combination of andesite and the limestone. And I'm going to use some of the metal framed glass because I think it's cool to be able to look inside your kelp farm. And then just fill in the back wall up by 2 with blocks of your choice. There we go. Now the end of this, where our hoppers are, we do not want water here yet. So we're going to put scaffolding, which I can't set on top of a hopper. That's really annoying. Okay, we're going to put a solid block, which we will break later. And we're going to go take a nap. Now it's time to do our redstone. It is not complicated at all. We start with pistons, a row of them across the back, just 6. We want to not put a piston on that last part. Then we're going to put observers on top of our pistons so that the smiley face is facing out because we want the signal to come out the back. And then we're just going to put a row of plain blocks against the back of the pistons. And on top of that, just a piece of redstone dust in front of every single one. That's it. That's the redstone. Now we want to bring the rest of the build up by 2 more blocks in the front so that we match the pistons and observers. Oops. And around the sides. Now is where the fun part begins. We are going to want to put water source blocks in this entire area, all the way up in front of our observers. Again, we are not putting water where the scaffolding is. The scaffolding is a temporary block. It's to keep the water from being there right now, and I'll explain why in just a little bit. We are going to take advantage of the way water mechanics work in Minecraft. So now we're going to go up 1 more level, and it's at this point where those observers are going to start firing. This is where we have to be a little more careful. We want to make sure that we have all source blocks in front of everything Check for moving water like this. This means it's likely that the block below the water source in front of the observer is not a solid water block. There we go. No more flowing water. That's what we're looking for. And I'm going to add one more row to our scaffolding here so that it sticks up by 2. Now we want to go up from our observers 2 more. And we're going to go ahead and make one more layer of that glass, but the top layer is just going to be regular bricks. Okay, now that we are up by 2 blocks, this row above the observers needs to be another row of solid water source blocks. We'll fill these in so that everything is a source block, no more flowing water. I'm gonna pick up 2 more buckets of water because we'll need them. Now, this is the tricky part. You're going to use slabs because we need to make a guide. We're going to have flowing water across the top, and we're not going to put anything in between the solid water below it and the flowing water on top. But we need to give that water a guide so that it knows how to behave. So we're going to just put waterlogged slabs down here. It doesn't hurt the source blocks underneath it, but it gives our water a place to go. So we're going to put 2 water source blocks on the end and let them flow all the way to the scaffolding. Now we're going to break our scaffolding and the 2 blocks that are above the hoppers down below. So now we have flowing water that actually goes, if we throw a couple blocks in here, it will go all the way down to the hoppers. Ta-da! Now we need to remove these slabs so that our kelp, as it grows up and is harvested, can also follow this water stream. And we're going to start over here against the wall. Do not start over here where the flow goes down. Start back here against the wall. And all of our slabs are also going to go down that water stream. And because of the way Minecraft water mechanics works, as long as they're solid blocks, you'll see that items slowly float to the surface. And why aren't y'all floating up? Hello? That probably means there is a missing source block down here. So we're going to take one and put it right in front of that piston. And we're going to check that stream again by throwing a couple items in the bottom. And make sure they make it all the way to the top. There they go. See, there was a missing source block there, which means they couldn't float. So I'm actually going to put source blocks in front of every one of the pistons really quick. And make sure that they're all source blocks. That's the tricky part, because when those pistons come out, they actually destroy that water block. And so you need the other water blocks around it to recreate those sources. So let's test them all again. That looks good. That looks good. And so they come up into these water streams, go over, and then go right down into our hoppers. That's exactly what we want to see. Okay, now we just have to plant our kelp. And we're only going to plant it against the row that has the observers and pistons. And if you want to speed things up, we can raise it up a couple of blocks. It's only, you can make this farm shorter. I only made it this high because kelp is pretty to look at. There we go. And as soon as that grows up above, oh, there it goes. And there goes our kelp. Some of it goes right into the water stream. The other will slowly make its way to the top and come back into the water stream and go down into the hoppers. That's so cool. Okay, now I'm just going to decorate up the top of this a little bit so that it matches the rest of the build. I'll be back. Ta-da! Our completed kelp farm, and it even matches the rest of the build. I went ahead and replaced the blocks next to the glass with the limestone and mossy limestone so that it was very much a match to the rest of things. And then of course added the oak pop-out edges along the top. I think I'm just going to leave the redstone as is. And in the time that it took me to finish out the decorating on this, we have a little bit of kelp that's starting to be produced. It's not the fastest farm in the world, but that's okay. It'll just passively collect kelp for us, which is what we need. Now that we have our kelp passively collecting in the background, let's go take a look at the millstone from the Create mod. The recipe for the millstone is super simple. It's just a couple of pieces of andesite alloy, a cogwheel, a piece of wood, and anything that qualifies as stone. So let's take a millstone, a shaft, a cogwheel, and our wrench and goggles so that we can see what's going on. And let's head over to our Create tower. I think we're going to have to put this up here on the higher level because there's not a whole lot of room down at the bottom. So let's go ahead and extend this up with a shaft and a cogwheel. And let's just set our millstone right next to it. You can either have a cogwheel next to it or a shaft going into the bottom. It's up to you. So our stress impact is fine. It's just a 4 SU base value, and we're doing great in terms of the stress being produced. I want to grab some wheat because that is the whole point and purpose of making our millstone, is so we can grind it up into flour and use it to make slime. So let's put about 14 pieces in there. And then once it's ground, I believe you just collect it by right clicking. So let me take my torches out of my hand. And look, we're getting wheat flour. Yay, wheat flour. We can make slime. Let's go make some slime. So we're going to stand over our water supply for this. I believe all we have to do is combine a bucket of water with wheat flour to get dough in a crafting table. So now we have 2 pieces of dough. Let's get some more water. Make some more dough. Now we need to combine this dough with some lime green dye. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to make use of Brittania. Part of the reason I went out on my journey earlier was so that I had an excuse to use the Brittania flower pouch and collect a whole bunch of flowers while we were out in the wild. So you can see that I picked up a bunch of the Brittania flowers. If you have the flower pouch in your inventory, as long as it is not in your hotbar, when you break any of the Brittania flowers, it'll pick them up automatically and put them in here. And look at this. We have a mystical lime flower. I'm going to take a few of these. And in order to increase the amount of dye that we get, we're going to take some bone meal by using some bones and my shears out of my backpack. And we're going to, I don't know if I've made one already. We need something called a pestle and mortar. That recipe is super simple. It's just a stick, a bowl, and a plank. And remember, a bowl is just 3 planks in vanilla Minecraft. So if we take our flowers down here to some dirt, we can first put them in a crafting table and convert them to petals. So every flower is going to give you 2 petals. So we have 16 mystical lime petals. If we plant those petals by right-clicking and then take some bone meal and bone meal the petal where we planted, we get a double tall version of that flower. Now we can take a pair of shears and harvest those. And I have turned my 16 petals into 46. So if we repeat that process a couple times, petal, bone meal, shear. As you can see, this basically becomes an infinite source of lime-colored petals. So now if we put these petals in a crafting table with our pestle and mortar, we get floral lime powder. Yay! And if we mix floral lime powder with dough. Look at that! We made 4 slime using flowers and dough. I'm so excited. Now that we have our method for making slime worked out, we need to think about next steps. So in the next episode, we will be making use of the kelp from our kelp farm to make belts from the create mod and expanding our knowledge of the create mod in order to automate the process for creating slime balls. That's everything we have time for today. Thanks very much for watching. If you liked the episode, please leave a like. If you'd like to keep up with what's going on the channel, don't hesitate to subscribe. And remember, as always, you are the shiny stuff that awesome is made of. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.